Okay, we're live on air, so let's try with part two of this video. I had a little bit short on time on last, so let's try to get done with this on this edition. So we have Frost, hello,
Hello?
and we have Joseph, hello,
Hello.
hello, Joseph,
Hello.
yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Yep.
We're gonna go through the video. Let me screen share. So here we go. We're gonna continue from where we picked off. And if you have something to say, be sure to say something, and I'm gonna start the video. Okay. Alrighty now.
I mean, I want to know, wouldn't it be refreshing or interesting to feature a protagonist that doesn't fit this mold? Because couldn't this make for a new perspective? Kind of going to what you're saying, Dave, is that, this could bring us a different type of story. This person has experienced different, hardships or things in their life, because of maybe the way they look. What do you think, Don?
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's a superhero right now named Faith that is a plus size superhero. That is so refreshing and new, and her perspective is so different.
Blob. Okay.
Different? You mean unbelievable?
Blob was overweight for decades.
Yeah, but he's just his weight now, so doesn't matter.
True.
Anyway, it's one of those. Isn't it? I don't buy comics because I'm not a fucking nerd. So, but I believe this is one of those ones that was just selling incredibly poorly.
Yeah. Well, it's probably Marvel.
Yeah,
it is.
Let me see.
That much I know. That's mostly from what like seeing comics and diversity guy who does all that stuff. I find it entertaining, but I really couldn't give a shit about comics.
Yeah, like fucking Faith was not a popular comic. Nobody wanted it. For fuck's sake, it didn't even sell well.
Yeah, so the argument is moot. Let's hear what she has to say about that, because the argument just starts out really poor.
And refreshing. Like, I am really excited about that. And it took us this long to get a main protagonist that is a plus size. And she's doing amazing things. She has superpowers. She's going out there. She's kicking butt. Like, we can do this. This can happen.
So not to say that, I mean, you brought up the comic book industry. So not to say that the comic book or movie or television industry is 100% perfect in terms of diversity. It may not ever be, but we have seen strides to be more inclusive and broad with their casting and subject matter. Is gaming, you think, the last entertainment industry to catch up in terms of multidimensional diversity? Don, what do you think?
Yes. Yes, they are. They're
I hate these sort of arguments. I don't know how are games not diverse?
They just mean they don't control them. They can't dictate and say, look, do exactly what we say, otherwise we'll fucking shame you and ruin you financially.
Well, first you have to ask what they mean by when they say diverse. Do they mean actual diverse as in different views being in the industry, or do they mean something else when they say diverse?
Yes.
And generally these people mean something else.
They mean all of the above, right? It's just whatever takes their fancy. But who gives a fuck? It's like,
well, think about it. They had a all black model photo shoot and they called it diverse. How the fuck is that diverse? So what do they really mean when they say diverse?
Well, they mean diverse as in, look, it's all been white men for we know what it means, right? I keep saying this, I mean, just no. Look, the reason why they're doing it is not because they think, this is, what they mean is, white men have been getting it so good for fucking ever, so if we show a bunch of black people at once, obviously balances the scale somehow. I mean, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Whatever way you cut it, I wouldn't give a shit. either way, except for like
Their statement is illogical. Then, if that's the case, it's like they say diverse, but that's not what they mean.
But it's not about. It's nothing but PR or whatever. Whoever you're trying to sell to. The main thing being that these people, like, why are you trying to sell to these people who don't buy your products? It's like this woman's talking about. I bet she did buy the Faith comic. But she didn't. But she didn't.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, it exists, which I'm happy with. Right? Are you going to buy it? No, comics are fucking mad. I'm not going to buy that.
Comic books is already a niche market, though.
Well, you wonder why they're socialists, right? Because the only way you can get these products to people is to force them to have them.
I mean, games are even more imaginative and have diversity of like what I call diversity is diversity of thought. I mean, there's basically limitless limitations in gaming. I mean, so saying that gaming has a big issue is like you can buy RPG Maker for what, $100 and make your own game, and have just a female, lesbian, whatever you want in a game. Trans,
but that sounds like effort.
yeah. So I mean, let's just hear what
They're lagging, man. Get with it.
Yeah.
But I think it has
ahead,
to do
Noma.
with like we're finally bringing the conversation. Does you know what I mean? Like we're finally initiating this conversation of like we want to see more representation. We want to see, you know, more people of color, more races, more body
For
types.
God's sake, it's more respectful. People of colour. It's like every time I hear this, it's like motherfuckers. Things you do realise the colour used to be a slur, right?
yeah.
Look, these fucking children, I can't stand listening to them. And person of colour. It's like, one, what is a colour objectively? It is fucking colour. If anything, your whole rainbow spectrum shit. Have you not noticed that
everyone has a fucking color?
Have you not noticed that the combination of all the fucking colours of the rainbow is white? Right, that's how it fucking works. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's just so retarded. It's so
Every
retarded.
time they say this representation shit, it's like, who the fuck cares? If you're that fucking depressed about your life that you need to be represented in a fucking a piece of fictional work, what does that say about you? It makes you fucking pathetic.
It's like, I have this argument all the time with people. It's like, oh, well, I can't play a game without it. It's like the story might be a nice backdrop. Assuming the game even has a story, because not every game has to have a fucking story. Not every game. This is the whole problem. It's like, oh, games are just movies that you can control. It's like, no, that's not what it is, right? Pac-Man it's like Pac-Man is something that only turned up in a movie, I think, like as subject matter or like documentary or whatever. It's not like I'm sure at some point fairly soon somebody's going to do a Pac-Man movie, because you know anything anybody recognises will just slap it into a movie, right? But this is not a game about yellow people eating pills, right? This is not what it is. This is not about, oh, I don't feel represented by Pac-Man because, you know, it's not black. It's like, this has been ridiculous. It's not a munching ball of colour, and it's like, well, yellow's still a colour, white's a colour, all fucking colours, right? What you really mean is, I've decided these people, even though you're not one of them, right? You're probably cishet. I mean, you can colour your hair any fucking way you like. It's not going to make any difference, though. It's just, what the fuck are you talking? You don't actually know what you want. And these are such trivial matters, and it's like, why the fuck are we talking about it? Why the fuck are we talking about it? It doesn't make any fucking sense.
And that leaves the question for me: how old are these people?
They're 20s. The children.
The old guy.
It's like if you're anywhere close to 30 and you're still talking about being represented in a fucking video game, I think you need to get a life. Because this it's just fucking ridiculous. This woman literally said, we're struggling with representation and we're just now having that conversation. No, we've been having that conversation. We've been having that fucking conversation since the 1920s.
What the fuck does that even mean, struggle? Let my people game or some shit like that. I mean, what the fuck does it mean, struggle?
There's no struggle. People make whatever the fuck they want to, and it's the end of the story. The only struggle is you trying to control what's being created. Not with your money, by the way.
Yeah, and like you said, with your money, even if they're appeasing these goddamn people, they're not gonna buy these games.
Well, look at what happened with Overwatch. They appease these people, then these people get into the game. They're not even I would even say they're not even the main audience of Overwatch at this point because it's a really mainstream game. Then Overwatch has to deal with fucking complaints of toxicity and all this other bullshit. The company panders to them once again by putting work into policing the player base rather than developing new systems in the game that would allow them to deal with it easier.
Or just telling them to turn the fucking microphone off or whatever, right? I mean, it's not that difficult.
Yeah.
It's just about wanting to get a couple of fucks and wanting to get attention. Attention whoring of the worst kind because it ruins everyone else's enjoyment.
And then on top of that, they blamed, the player base for that. And it's like, the player base is not these people. Most of the player base doesn't care about the toxicity or whatever the fuck is going on. Most of the player base just wants to play the game and wants more content in the game. So if they actually gave a fuck about the player base, why aren't they giving that to them? Because they're too busy pandering to these idiots.
Yeah, I really don't know why Blizzard are doing this. They're fucking retarded. It's like most people don't have a problem. Most normal people, these are agitators. This is what they fucking do as a living, pretty much. It's just find reasons to get pissed off. These are trivial. They're so fucking trivial.
And I've seen this person's cosplay. She's not a bad cosplayer, and she's not a small girl, but it's like, okay, look at your success as a cosplayer. There are plenty of skinny people who fucking are humping their ass out there cosplaying and whoring themselves off and don't have nearly the fan base that you do. But yet people don't like fat people. I mean, that's the reason thick girls are a fucking meme right now. People love them. I just find it all fucking hilarious.
Let's get on with this shit.
Shebang, because I mean, I feel like now that we have social media and these networks that we can really put out what we want to see. We can tell these developers, this is what we like. This is what we would like to play with. This, we can give them our whole, like our experience, our reviews. And I feel like that has helped influence a lot of it. I don't think it's like all just their fault that they didn't, we haven't had this representation. I think it's just, we haven't had this voice to tell them that we want this representation.
It's a really interesting point. Sarah in chat says we have to break the stereotypes. These negative tropes need to end. By justifying them, we will never grow. So how do we break those negative tropes, Dave?
It's hard. I mean, obviously, by including the different characters, the different physical looks, whether it be male, female, different races, different body sizes. One thing that you run the risk of, though, and I'm not defending, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate,
sure,
is that, and this is why I was thinking BioWare earlier. If I recall correctly, when BioWare had the whole lesbian kerfuffle that came up because they had one character in one of the Mass Effect games, there were people online who were getting all over them and says, well, you're doing it wrong. Why would you make this lesbian character this way? You're trying too hard.
Can't please them.
Other people were saying,
cannot please them.
Yeah.
This is why you don't even bother. Don't listen to these people. They're not there to be pleased. They will never be happy. They just want to complain. They love complaining. It's their lifeblood.
And it's not like you can't say you didn't know.
Let's hear his reasoning, because I'm interested how he excuses
Well, let's go then.
Bad character development.
About the same character. Well, you're not trying hard enough. You know, why don't you make them do this and this and this? And so, one of the things you run the risk of is pleasing all of the people all the time. Is if you were to have as an NPC, of course, you know, that not, or even just the pre-canned VO of a playable character. You know, why would you make them talk like that? Why would you make them do this? Or you're not doing it enough. You're making them too gay, not gay enough. You know, and you really run the risk of people wanting to have their very specific idea of what it means to be this. And if you miss that, which you're going to miss for a lot of people, you end up, you know, getting yourself in trouble. You can't please everybody, but you know, that's not an excuse to not do it. I'm just saying it's really hard if you're making design decisions about a character, about the narrative of, well, how do we know, for example, that game characters in the past haven't been gay, but it never came up because it wasn't part of the story, which is perfectly legit. People around you all the time might be, but no, we want to obviously know. And now, how are we going to represent this without pissing off some you know, sliver group that is mad because you did it the wrong way? And so it's really hard to create that type of character to make enough people happy to get the point of the character across, but not alienate a whole bunch of other people on the side.
There's actually something interesting he says here. Is maybe some characters were gay in the past, but you know, and you know why people don't, even if they are now.
Gay, even though there's no reason to care about Dumbledore's sexuality, is definitely a homo.
If
that person is, it doesn't matter the story. Why the fuck are you so hung up about it? It's not going to do with the game at that point. It's all about your neuroses.
Yeah, and if even if the character was gay and it was never mentioned in the game, how then gay doesn't define them as a human being? It's just a sexuality. So why would you explicitly make a character gay and of a certain color or creed or whatever you want to call it?
And just with selectable characters, and you usually have a woman in that, and it's like the whole point is what I can think of, like Golden Axe. You had your dwarf, you had your warrior, and you had your Amazon. Right? It's kind of a classic thing with like RPGs as well. It's like you will have your four tropes, like your thief, your mage, and warrior, and your elf or something like that. And it's like, in one case, it basically it's a bit of variety. Might have some mechanics associated with it. For example, Dogmax, the Amazon character, was more magic, so the magic attack, the weaker normal attacks. Dwarf had these stronger attacks. The warrior was just in the fucking middle, and it's like, okay, fine, whatever. But none of that really meant anything. All their parents or brothers or whatever were killed by Death Adder, and then they go off and try to kill him. It's straightforward enough. There's nothing complicated there. Whether or not the dwarf sucked dwarf cock or not, it's not really relevant, is it?
I don't. A good character is a good character, and a good story is a good character, which includes good characters. So I don't really care, to be honest.
It's even necessarily a tool, which most of the time it really isn't, because it's just this is a person. It's incidental most of the time.
Yeah. Let's continue.
Design decisions are always painful like that. So
I think, just
again, we still should do it.
Of course. Most importantly, the fact that it's being done. And I will say that I am a straight woman, but I totally romanced Liara in the first Mass Effect. So kudos, BioWare. All right. It's time for us to take a quick break, but we'll be right back to discuss the troubling trend of body shaming in cosplay.
You're so old. It's the future.
A way to go with the stereotype,
Alt-right, alt-right. There we go.
Curvaceous as them as well. But I think a lot of times
cosplay has shape and forms that don't match. The cosplay community has thrived as a culture filled with self-expression and creativity, but a rampant problem has emerged revolving around body shaming. Many plus-size cosplayers who portray characters that don't match their body shapes are brutally attacked online as a result.
What?
Wait. They say a problem has emerged. The only problem that's emerged in the cosplay community within the past few years is SJWs attacking pretty much everybody for playing Asian characters.
I don't care about cosplay really. It's as long as people. I mean, the whole point is to have fun, is it not? That's why it's called cosplay.
Well, that's part of it. But another point of cosplay is to be an attractive, accurate representation of the character that you're playing. And if you're not doing that, people are gonna have a problem with it. It doesn't make them right for constantly attacking you. However, there is going to be criticism, and that's just part of the business. So you're gonna have to work with that.
Yeah, I don't get it myself. I suppose it's only if like professional, such a thing can exist in professional cosplay. It's like that's just really that's your business. If you're making money out of it, I'll just like say, well, whatever, right? If that's your thing, if you're just doing it for fun, you just ignore people. Why? It's like you're not gonna stop people from being assholes, really. In fact, you're just gonna embolden them by giving them attention. Really, that's the whole point, isn't it? Just get on with your own life.
Yep.
Oh, let's continue.
As a community that used to celebrate self-expression in any kind of shape and form, is cosplaying becoming an activity that can only be enjoyed by people who have an idealized body type? And Momo-kun, I'd like to start with you.
I don't think that cosplay has to be just resorted to, like small body types and only representing most of what we see in anime, which is a lot of the time small, white girls. I mean, that's okay because it's like westernized and that's what they want to market to. But there's nothing wrong with someone who's more full-bodied and more curvaceous to dress up as them as well. But I think a lot of the time we're so used to seeing this one character, and once we see something that looks like it but not it, we get offended. Like, oh, how dare they? They're so fat. They're this and that. And that's like a very terrible way to think, especially with our community that.
She says this thing that looks like it but is not it. If you're playing a thin character and you're not a thin person, you don't look like that character. That's the point.
Yeah.
You're not it, and you don't look like the character. And it's not that people are offended. It's just you have a lot of women who are playing characters that are obviously don't fit their body type and who don't do it well. And that's what people have a problem with.
Yeah. Just let me screen share again. I was just checking the chat if there was adding something. Let's continue.
Grew up being bullied, harassed, and picked on growing up, and then we go back and do the exact same thing to others. It's shameful. It's sad, and even I at some point would even feel that way. Like I would even like body shame and fat shame when I was younger, because I never learned it myself. Like this is not good. Like you shouldn't attack to feel better about yourself. And that's what I think a lot of people do nowadays, is that they push these negativities onto people because they're not feeling positive in their own light. Like you can wear a bikini in public.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was saying that's fucking ironic considering this whole entire show.
Yeah, they're basically just bitching online about games.
She's doing exactly the same thing she says not to do right now.
Yeah. quite freaking ironic, to be honest. Well, let's continue.
Even if you're 170 pounds, I don't care. You go nuts, girl. Like, and men can cosplay whatever they want, even if they're plus size. I always hear like my male friends like, "Oh, I gotta get in shape for this. I gotta get in shape for that." No, like if you want to get in shape, do it. But like, don't ever feel like you can't do something because you're not in shape. Like I just did Roadhog at Anime Los Angeles, and you know I got my comments like, "Oh my God, she's so fat." Oh my God, like it's whatever. You kind of just have to let people realize that you're cosplaying for yourself, and these people in the community are cosplaying for themselves. Like, don't let these bullies get to you, and don't let people who don't even cosplay tell you how to cosplay.
You're contradicting yourself.
Yeah. She really is. And she
How
doesn't
the
she lacks the self-awareness to realize that.
How the fuck can you not realize in the same goddamn when she's talking now? First, she says people are getting bullied, but you shouldn't basically not give a crap what other people say because you're doing it for yourself, and you shouldn't like give a crap what others people are doing. Like there is clear cognitive dissonance here. I'm stunned. How can she not hear what she's saying?
And if you deal with cosplayers in the cosplay community, there's a lot of people who think like this. They think that there should be no criticism, and you should, and quite frankly, it's mostly the unattractive cosplayers or the larger cosplayers that have this type of thought process. And I don't, well, I can guess why that is, but it's like they're to not consider people stupid. You kind of have to wonder.
Yeah, it's kind of related to this, but if you know who Jacqueline Glenn is, I thought it was really interesting because people were criticizing her for basically body shaming people for when they because they weren't in shape, because she posted a picture in a bikini or some shit like that, because she's
So
like
the literal existence of not being overweight is enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the I would expect mostly women, because it's quite some time ago I actually saw that video, but she was kind of taken back by where all these people were basically I think it was her Facebook when she posted a picture of her in a bikini, like she was out on the beach or whatever, just having fun, and she got a lot of messages and I talked about this. I mean, that is really interesting. You hear that, which you don't hear a lot. When you shouldn't shame these larger women for what they wear, but it's totally okay when it's a thin woman because she's oppressing us and telling us to get in shape.
Well, if you look at it from a philosophical point of view, it's, well, forgive me for going all Jordan Peterson on you. It's basically like the Cain and Abel story all over again. You know, these people are envious of a particular thing, but instead of striving to become that thing that they're envious of or that they admire, they choose to seek out and destroy it and ruin it.
Well, let's hear her rant.
I feel like that's a huge thing. Like people are always trying to tell cosplayers how to cosplay, yet they don't do it themselves. They've never put themselves out there. Not at all.
Yeah. Dave, do you want to elaborate on that a little bit? How did we get to a point where there's some sort of policing happening for someone's habit?
I'm still having throwbacks to the what she said earlier about being bullied as kids. Like that was I'm still having trauma over this because that was me.
Absolutely.
But the I think it is interesting that Momokun pointed out the change from, hey, we used to be an accepting fringe peculiar person community, Island of Misfit Toys, whatever. And it reveled in that, came together in that. And now it's like, you're not misfit enough, or you're misfitting the wrong way. And I think that is interesting, because after all, and this is completely not my community. I don't do this. I have a hard time like changing the color of shirt that I wear, much less dressing up as a game character. But it does seem kind of, it begs me to ask the question of you ladies, what is it that you are cosplaying? Are you cosplaying the person, the role, the personality? Are you cosplaying the outfit? Because I've seen some really elaborate, accurate representations.
Or are you trying to everyone?
There's like role playing, and then there's like cosplaying. Yes. I think, and I mean, like LARPing is another kind of like whole thing in itself. Well, cosplaying is another thing in itself, and I think a lot of people mistake those two. Like, oh my God, if you're dressing up like this, you have to be like this. Mm-hmm. But that's not the case at all.
Or the other way.
Like, you don't have to act it out.
Right.
Yeah.
So
but I've seen people do both.
There are people that do both.
Yeah, that's totally fine. But I think people kind of like push them all together. Like, it has to be all of it at one time. You can't just do one.
My point, though, was, is the end goal.
Huh? Go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, way to completely miss the fucking point. She just doesn't get it.
Yeah.
You win the big trophy. To try to be as exactly like that character as possible. And I think that my guess is the answer would be no. At least not physically.
Don,
in which case, why are we judging that?
Yeah, I mean, Don, I would love to hear from you. I mean, do you think there are rules to cosplay? Because I feel like the community really self-polices themselves a lot. And they're like, well, this is cosplay and this isn't cosplay. And if you buy your costume, you're not cosplaying.
Citation needed. Who the fuck says that?
Yes.
Who the fuck has ever said that?
I don't probably other cosplayers. I don't give a fuck. I certainly don't care.
Like,
I want to know who says if you bought your cosplay, it's not real cosplay. I really want to know who's
I'm
ever
sure
said
there probably are, but I imagine there are probably other cosplayers.
Yeah, but it's probably a non-problem. Like, at least give us some specifics. Like, Jesus Christ. Let's continue.
But this person makes their own, and
No, there's no rules. Like, people are so ridiculous. Like, there's no handbook. They're like, here's the rules of cosplay.
Yeah, because I'd like to know where this pamphlet exists, because a lot of people reference this.
4chan, probably. They probably have like a whole like.
That's the fucking irony of this whole entire thing. There are no rules. Which makes it a fucking free-for-all. And that means all the criticism that you get, it's a fucking free-for-all. There are no rules. You can't have no rules and then try to impose rules that benefit you.
Yeah.
I'm
saying so
if the rules aren't
ridiculous.
4chan, that explains everything.
Like, if like people were like, oh, you can only cosplay characters you look like, then no one over like a size like 6 would cosplay, because most characters are super thin. There's not a lot of options out there for anyone that is not super small.
That's not true.
Yeah. I remember that guy who cosplayed as the no-lifer in South Park, and people cheered him.
That's just completely untrue. Like, now she's fucking being hyperbolic.
Yeah.
How the fuck are you cosplaying if there are no characters that are like over a size 6? A size 6 is pretty fucking small, mind you.
Yeah. And like, Jesus Christ. the people who get recognized the most in the cosplay community are the ones who put the most effort into that.
And the ones who generally look the most attractive. It's not just about how big or how small you are.
Exactly. Let's continue.
People of color as well. We don't see that representation in anime.
I mean, we're there, but like, there's a lot of characters. I wouldn't say a lot, but there are characters that are Black, that are Indian, you know, all sorts of characters out there, but they don't get the love and they don't get the attention. And so people just assume, oh, there's not a lot out there. Well, there is. Like, you could do a simple Google search of Black Marvel superheroes and you'll get a huge list. And it's not as big as the list of white superheroes, but it's a big list. And it's just because we're not using those characters and putting them out there enough for people to realize there's more options.
But isn't it okay though for someone that maybe it's not their race, they can still dress up as that character?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I have cosplayed Siren. She's my favorite superhero. She's a white Irish woman with red hair. She looks like you, Mandy.
What up?
And I don't care. Like, that's my girl. I'm gonna cosplay her. I don't look anything like her. We don't even have.
Yeah, but you can't expect people to just think that's the best cosplay ever.
She just solved her own fucking issue, though.
Yes, basically, which is what I've been saying. Just don't give a fuck. Why fucking why about it?
Hey, there's a whole bunch of Black cosplayers who play like people like Misty and do a fucking great job of it. And it's like, there are no rules. Why do people have to choose these obscure characters that they don't like in order to make you happy?
Yeah, but it's like it's same with what Mumu-kun, or whatever she calls herself. They're solving their own problems without realizing it. I mean, talk about stupid. Jesus Christ.
The same skin color, hair color, body type, I don't care. That's my character. I'm going to do what makes me happy. I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it for everybody else. I don't care.
Back in my TF2 days, I was a really good demo man.
Yeah.
I need to be a Black Scottish one-eyed demo man and see how well that goes over without.
Oh my god.
They would fucking crucify him if he did that. They would fucking crucify him.
This guy is,
and he's laughing with them, and they're laughing, and because they know they would fucking crucify this guy if he did that. They would be the first people right there talking shit.
unbelievable. Jesus Christ. Just, do you have anything to add?
Apart from me still not caring, not really.
Out resorting to blackface.
Yes.
And
good. See, Dave knows.
Yeah, don't do the thing.
Okay, so I do want to bring up this quote from cosplayer Talin Kell says, in the early days of cosplay, quote, there were so few people dressing up that people were excited to see anyone adorned as their favorite character. As cosplay got more popular, though, there was an increasing number of people who actually looked like the characters or who were willing to change their bodies enough to get as close to looking like the characters as humanly possible. And suddenly that became the ideal.
Because people who put the most effort into something should get recognized for it. Jesus.
It's not that suddenly came the ideal. That was always the ideal.
Yeah.
They're trying to rewrite history here.
It's totally unsurprising. People admire the dedicated. It's like, yes, they put the most work in, so of course people are looking at it and go, wow, they put all this work in there and they look really good. So if you put no work into it, nobody's going to give a shit. I'm sorry. That's just how it is.
And there are some good budget cosplays that look fucking super dank that people don't put a lot of work. Well, actually, they're cheap, but people put a lot of work into them. It's like, it just all depends. Sometimes people aren't going to react positively to what you're doing, and that's fine. Try something else.
So has cosplay become less about the celebration and fandom and more about a competition of who can do it better?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that statement, because I remember seeing my first cosplay and my first Comic-Con in 1999, and I was so excited. I didn't even care that it wasn't like the most amazing craftsmanship. I didn't care that this person didn't look exactly like them.
Look at that. How many hours do you think went into that?
And notice she is in a size 6.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the makeup, you've got the actual. I mean, I imagine that's probably like plaster cast, and you've also got the bra, obviously. I mean, that's going to take like hours and hours and hours of work to get right.
One piece.
You can't say, oh, right, well, this woman is like, oh, shaming her for putting the effort in. I'm sure she doesn't
like
go
this
around
piece right here.
everyone else's shit.
This would probably like take her like a few hours, just this piece alone, and then you get the gloves, and then you got the other shoulder, then you got the top.
I guarantee this one doesn't go around denigrating anyone else. I bet she doesn't.
I guarantee you nobody's fucking sitting there calling her overweight and shit because of this particular cosplay.
Nah.
I bet you no one's fucking complaining.
Well, people see that she's putting effort in, and she looks hot in that outfit. She also spent time doing the body paint, so that's even more effort. That probably takes an hour or so to do the body paint, and the makeup. Like, there's a lot of effort. I can see it. So, jeez.
I was just happy to see someone doing it. Yeah. And I'm still like that about that.
How do you feel, Momo-kun? Yeah, go ahead.
I just brought this point up actually to some friends the other day. We were at Anime Los Angeles, and you see all these new cosplayers and just a array of photographers, and you're like, wow, like cosplay's changed a lot. And I compared it to, I saw a Genji cosplayer just like in middle of the night, almost still in cosplay, and I was like, that's what con used to be like. Staying in cosplay all day, going to all the events and everything, and seeing, like, experiencing it for yourself. But I mean, I think, there's nothing wrong with that, how it has changed, but there's been a huge change. Now we go to, like, get photography done, to network. Usually it's not so much about, like, seeing the cosplays anymore. It's like, get there, get your photos done, get out, is what I've noticed. And I mean, like, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong if that's that type of con going. That's totally okay. But I think because it's become that, a lot of people get upset because they think like, hey, you're taking my thing I really love and you're changing it. But I think change is good. I think change is okay because we can both have those two different sides.
Don't say fucking change is okay and then complain when it changes.
I was just about to say that. So. The argument started out with that first it was good because there was no competition and people could be whoever they wanted, and then when people more and more people got into it, people got popular because they put effort and looked like the characters they cosplayed as. Now it's suddenly bad that they want to go back. Like, you're contradicting yourself again.
You cannot take the bad. You cannot take the good without the bad. You're trying to have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah. Looking at the chat. Unless you're aiming for playing for a fat cat woman, how about shaming fat men? We don't hear much about that. Yeah, from Lodica. Yeah, that is true. Going to screen share again. There we go.
That whole like modeling aspect of cosplay and the con going of cosplay, where you're sitting in there sweating in a panel in like 3D maneuver gear and like just and I think that's okay, and I think that's fine. I think there's that whole change, that whole difference of how can I say it, of like showcasing.
Sure. Patrick in chat says cosplayers can be done by everyone, regardless of shape, size, or color. People who think that are clearly shallow and need to get a life. On a side note, Momo did an excellent May, and Samus Aran. Those were awesome. So kudos for you, Momo-kun. Okay.
Thank you.
So in the early, talking about the early days of pop culture cons, cosplay was a rarity, as we discussed, and it was super exciting to see fans bring some of our favorite characters to life. Nowadays, it's expected at these events, with some cons even paying well-known cosplayers to make appearances. Has this made the hobby in some ways harder to get into? Speaking to the newcomers to the scene, couldn't some newcomers feel daunted by entering into a scene that is so kind of pseudo-celebrity at this point? Dave, what do you think?
Again, this is not my scene. I've always been on the outside.
Sure, but so someone is on the outside. What do you think?
To be honest, yeah, that would be something that I would be sitting at home looking at whatever I've created and going, I'm not going to be good enough. And
too fucking bad.
Yeah. At some point, you got to just suck it up.
No, you have the sports. Let's compare this to sport. You have basketball, for example, and there are more. When the sport gets bigger, there's going to be more competition, which means more people are going to play it, which means it's going to be harder for you to become a pro and become the best. But just think about Michael Jordan. I mean. He didn't become the best, and when he saw better players than him when he was young, he worked his ass off and became the best. That's how you fucking get become the best.
Well, it's like he's saying, I'm sitting at home and saying this isn't good enough. That voice in your head is a good thing. It means you could be better.
Yeah.
So you suck it up and do the cosplay, and then on your next one, you try and make it better than your last one. I mean, what's wrong with that?
Nothing. That's how you progress in your hobby or whatever in life.
So why should I bother doing this? And again, it's throwing me back to my childhood. Yes, well, I could never look like that. I for a variety of reasons. It would be. To be honest, that's what I was thinking. Is if I had decided to go into this, I wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't. Is there a minimum threshold that I need to achieve? And if you are having these situations where people,
those minimum thresholds are what people put themselves as a goal, not others. So, again, stupid.
There are no rules, yet there's
really good at being, being paid and brought in on our, internationally recognized of, that person does it really well. I'm going to look like an idiot. And so at that point, it has gone from being a culture of, hey, we're having fun together, to becoming more like a pageant. Where with its inherent judging, and yeah, I would not be comfortable going into that sort of scenario like that.
Yeah,
I feel like there's a level of self-confidence you have to have, though.
Sure, go ahead.
I've got plenty of self-confidence for going out.
I don't look at what everybody else is doing. Like, I love certain things that people do, and I really admire their work and their skill and their craftsmanship. But I'm not going to let what they're doing stop me from having fun and doing what I want to do. And
so what is your argument then?
Yeah, she just basically solved the whole entire issue. So, and then this asshole is sitting up there saying, "Oh, cosplay is not a pageant." Yes, it fucking is. It's always been a pageant.
You can't have it both ways. You can't be like, you've got to be accepting of our bodies. You can't judge us, and also you have to say we're all fucking awesome. You can't have it. You can't have all three. You can't have it. You can't. You want, as you say, you want to have at least 2 cakes and also eat another 2 cakes.
Since cosplay has been in
so many fucking cakes.
since cosplay has been in like conventions, they've always had like cosplay contests and shit like that. They have always had like who wore the best cosplay or who played this character the best. It's always been a fucking pageant. You're there to look good. There's no getting around that.
You don't have to care about that stuff either.
Yeah, and it's like if you aren't
If you're like, I care about the fact that I'm not winning this stuff because there are other people who are winning it, and that's just jealousy, pure and simple. It's like me saying, well, I can't run the 100 meters as fast as Usain Bolt, and I don't think that's right. And it's like, well, your personal opinion, that doesn't really matter. He can run faster, a lot faster.
Yeah. Just don't fucking care if you're not gonna care. Don't expect other people not to care, though.
Yeah, that's true. Let's continue.
That comes with, for me, it came with age and self-confidence to go, you know what? I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to have fun, and they could be amazing and incredible. That's cool, but I'm going to do what I want to do and have fun, and I'm going to feel amazing doing what I'm doing, And so I feel like you kind of have to stop comparing yourself to other people and let yourself enjoy it.
Yeah, that's the perfect point. It's not about like looking at others and saying, "Oh my gosh, look where they're at. I could never be that." Because like I only started a few years ago, and if I were to say like, "Oh my gosh, like look at Jessica Negri, look at Yaya Han, I could never be that," that'd be like, no. I think instead they inspired me. I mean, I actually found my inspiration from a
So what is your goddamn problem?
Face fucking point. Face fucking palm. That's the whole entire point of everything in this whole entire segment. You're overweight. The character inspires you. Aspire to be that character and go for it.
Is there not a problem? If there is a problem, what can you do about it? If what you can do about it is change yourself rather than change everyone else, it's probably the first option. And if you don't care about what everyone else is doing and you don't mind and just go with it, it's like, what? You're creating your own problems here.
There's nothing else that needs to be said about that.
Yeah.
With Raining Neon, I saw her love and craft of it, and as popular as she was, it just made me think, oh my gosh, I want to be there one day, and I want to meet her, and I want to meet these people that I look up to, and that's all that it's done is inspire me. And I feel like for someone to like see these popular models and to think, oh my God, I can't do this, that they're getting the wrong message. I think the right message is to be, I can do this too. I'm in this community. I can be a part of this, and I can grow from this.
Eleanor,
right here.
People to react a particular way to what they're saying. It's like, oh right, they should think this, and they don't think it. You can't force them to. You can say, look, you can still do it, and it doesn't matter really how good or bad you are, as long as you're having fun. But that just contradicts again what we've been previously saying. It's like, well, you're going to determine to not have fun at this because other people are saying, oh, I don't think you're good enough. It's like, just say, fuck off, I don't care. How difficult is that?
It's like they're sitting here saying that shouldn't be the message or whatever. Then why the fuck are you telling it to people? You're sitting here telling people that they can't be that popular cosplayer.
Body shaming, hot issue body shaming, and then solution, right? Don't worry about body shaming.
They're basically doing what they're saying shouldn't be the message. They're telling people exactly that. And it's like, you're the fucking problem.
Yeah. And they don't see it. That's the sad part. They even give solutions to their own problems, but don't even understand that they are actually doing it.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, what we started with was the fact that the community has become so judgmental, saying,
"Oh yes,
citation needed."
Don't get me wrong. I'm very familiar with the cosplay community. And they are judgmental, but no more judgmental than people normally are. They're people.
this is like, oh, cosplayers are normal, and they're just judging you by whatever you do. That's bullshit.
They're judging you like a normal person would. So fucking what? Get over it.
No, you can't do it that way. You're doing it wrong. Get the hell out, and you know, or something to that effect. And so, you're describing the way it should be.
Right.
Is it that way anymore? Who knows?
Who knows? Eleanor,
You know, I was gonna say it depends on what part of the community you're putting in, whether you're surrounding yourself with negativity or the positive part of the community. If you're surrounding,
That's quite fucking ironic. Just saying that.
surrounding yourself with positivity in that community, you're not gonna get that. If you're not gonna let those negative comments get to you, you're not gonna let that hateful mantra surround you. You're gonna feel the way I just said. You're gonna feel that inspiration, that motivation to go out there and cosplay whatever the hell you want to do.
Yeah. Eleanor in chat says it's quite cruel, but it's
Huh? What did you say?
Problem solved.
Yeah.
unfortunate that society still forces those norms on everyone to be acceptable, especially in cosplaying, which already gets put in a weird box by most people outside the community. It should be about expressing yourself and having fun, not having to be worried about shaming or belittling your work. So
I think they're just contradicting. Let's skip a little bit ahead.
Who fucking says that, though? They literally just said less than 10 minutes ago there are no rules. You don't get to impose rules on something that you stated there are no rules for.
Let's go into the... Because at this point, they're just going to contradict themselves all the way. So let's go into the last topic and see if there's anything interesting there.
This title is fucking hilarious, mind you.
we've seen some insanely intricate systems showcased in the past, but with every impressive feat comes a creator that is shallow, lackluster, and frankly oppressive to the player. In an industry that is plagued with criticism and problems with homogeneity, it's hard to see why there isn't a character creator standard that every developer strives to provide.
Because they're different developers, they have different visions, they have different limitations. There's so much I could say here. Jesus Christ.
Well, they don't fucking have to do it either, so vote with your money if that's what you really, really want.
I think it's funny they say character creators are underutilized when they're almost in every fucking game that isn't a single-player RPG. And even then...
Well, this is the thing, this is not appropriate for all genres of games. I mean, why... Look, if that really matters to you so much, go and find a game that does that shit. And if it doesn't matter that much, you won't really care what you're playing. So you can't just demand, look, you're gonna have to do this, otherwise I'm gonna buy your game. And they go, all right, well, there's 20 people complaining about this, and there's millions of other people who don't give a shit. Well, I guess I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
And then get surprised that it's not getting done.
Well, let's continue.
Dave, what are the complexities involved in building a character creation tool in a video game?
Well, yeah, there's certainly a lot of complexities, and it would be nice if we could have some sort of standards, but there's a lot of requests and a lot of different types of tech for standards in the game. The thing is, a lot of us are running on different engines.
That right there just solves the problem. They run on different engines. Ta-da! Sorry, I just get mad when...
have different needs depending on the type of game we're creating and everything. It's psychologically, it's a really powerful hook, and because there's actually something that psychologists call the IKEA effect, which is that you put much more value on something that you had a hand in creating, and of course it's referencing putting together a piece of furniture you get from IKEA. But it doesn't matter if you end up with your sliders in the exact same position, whether it be on some of these other games like The Sims or whatever, as somebody else. You're sitting there going, I made that. That's that way because I wanted it to be that way. And so there's a really powerful draw in that, but the technical complexities are, I kind of touched on it earlier when I was talking about like things like the walk animations for, different sized people, different heights, different, and you can kind of shrink and grow some things, but not all of them. Or if you have wearables, an asset for a jacket is going to fit differently based on how thick you make that person's shoulder, how broad the shoulders are, the chest, the waist, and everything, or even just a hat. Well, I've made my head bigger, or extended the forehead out a little bit. That asset needs to be able to cling to that model somehow. And so it's really difficult. You can get it almost right, but a lot of times almost right, but not completely right, is the part that pisses people off, because then they notice it drops into what we call the uncanny valley, which is an AI term of, wow, hey, you almost hit it. And as you're getting better, it all of a sudden became creepy because you were really close, but not close enough. And that's the thing that throws a lot of people off is, yeah, it would have looked better if you had just kind of cheated there instead of trying to make it work. And so, yeah, just from an animation and art standpoint, it's really difficult to do that, especially when you have the demands of what we're doing in game with our engines. We have hundreds or thousands of different animations that all have to accommodate whatever the player put in.
Mm-hmm. So, Don, is someone that plays, World of Warcraft and other games. Have you been more inclined to play those games because of their character creator tools?
Oh, yeah. Like, I like to be able to customize my character as much as possible. There's a game that's no longer around that I really loved for that, and that was City of Heroes and City of Villains. And you could have any skin tone, like from super light to super dark. You can have big hips, you can have small hips. Like, I love being able to tweak all those little details. We'll
buy those games.
City of Heroes doesn't exist anymore, but there are games that are basically like reskins of it out there, like DC and Marvel online. They're basically the same games.
Well, they're shutting down Marvel Heroes, so
DC Heroes has been going pretty strong, though.
yeah, DC Universe Online, yeah.
Yep.
Anything you want to add, Dozax? Yes? No? Okay, let's continue.
Warcraft is really fun because you have the different races that are different body types. They have the different hairstyles, the different hair colors, certain facial features. So things like that are really appealing to me when I can get characters a certain way to be a certain way, like certain look and certain style that I want. So that is a huge draw for me.
Yeah. Momo, do you think why do some games offer very robust options and others fall flat? Should they not include the function if it's lacking in its options in terms of character creators?
I think it depends on the game that you're playing as well. I mean, like,
he just answered this question.
Well, let's hear what she has to say, because just heard the answer. This would be the second time, or the second or third time she does this in the same goddamn podcast.
Yeah.
I'll use the Dragon Ball games for reference. We had Dragon Ball Xenoverse where we first got the customization of, I know it's not like real humans, but we got like Majins, Kais, Saiyans and whatnot. I think that was like really cool. I mean, like, but that played along with that game. But Dragon Ball Fighters just came out, and there's no customization. At least I'm not sure if there is. I don't think there is. But because it doesn't go along with the game. I think if the customization goes along with the game, that's totally cool. But if you're playing as like a set character, I don't think there needs to be one, actually.
Right.
So
It's the irony.
You do realize that the fidelity on Dragon Ball Fight, I call it Fighter C. The fidelity of that game is probably the best it's been in a Dragon Ball game since Dragon Ball Budokai. And
Well, he basically stated why that is, because they don't have to split resources.
yeah, and they can make
And they don't have to stretch messages.
Yeah, and he explained this like 2 minutes ago.
And yet they
There's
still want to beat this line like, you should give us this, even though we know you're not technically able to give us this all the time. It's like a Kafka trap.
Yeah. Does X, do you want to add something? Oh, did he?
He left. He might have had something to do. Not sure.
They probably disconnected. Oh, let's continue then.
Are there ways in which in which creating a custom avatar who is the protagonist of a game can actually be detrimental to the overall story? If a hero character has to be referred to as hero or guardian or savior, etc., does that pull you out of the game a bit when you aren't addressed as your name? Do you think this affects the overall storytelling? What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, because even just as you touched on here a moment ago, even just having a male or female protagonist, the playable character, you have to now change your VO, either recording all of the lines that reference a gender, or trying to call them by name. Obviously, if you're going to say, I have to come up with two different names. What if the player wants to customize their name? Well, in a text game, you could pull that off. Anything with VO, you're kind of sunk until we can get to being able to do like some sort of text-to-speech engine where I can say anything I want. Which, trust me, as an AI guy who works on some narrative stuff, I would really like to have that. But that does. It's like, oh, he called me hero again because he doesn't know what to call me, and so. There is that, but also the own characters VO. What if it's like, hey, I've gone to all of this trouble to create my character the way I want it, but it's using either the male or the female voiceover. Well, I don't want my character to sound like that. That's not what I had in mind when I created the look. Oh, well, good. They gave me 4 different choices of how I want my character. No, none of those are right. So it's a lot of it is overcoming not only the technical side of that, but just the budgetary side of that. How many different male characters and female characters are we going to record in VO? 12, 200?
I mean, that's a great point. I do have to bring up again Mass Effect, because they got around this issue by naming the character Shepard, and you never actually get the first name of that character within any of the game. And they did in fact record all male voice lines and then all female voice lines. But yeah, if that doesn't match the voice that you had in your head for the character, that does present a challenging.
Yeah, see, that was the problem with Star Wars: The Old Republic, is they have 4 different classes on each side, and they're both a male and female. So you basically need to have 16 voices, and they had the most ambitious voice or storytelling in an MMO. So that cost a lot of money, and it kind of backfired because it cost them too much, and they had to scale down the entire game because of.
One game that I know for a fact does this often is Guild Wars 2. They have male and female for each race, and there are 5 races. And it's like to give you about like 30 minutes to an hour of story, like 30 minutes to 2 hours sometimes, they have to spend literally 2 to 3 months building assets every content patch. And because of that, the game has suffered a lot. I mean, there was times at which they went like 7 to 8 months without updating any of the content in the game because there's just so many resources that they need to give to things like high fidelity art or scheduling with the voiceover artists. It's just a lot of work. And these people are trying to get gold for what can be essentially pennies.
Yeah. Let's continue.
Issues. So Don, I mean, does this pull you out of a game when you aren't addressed maybe as your name, or do you think this affects storytelling in any way?
I've gotten so used to it that it doesn't
customary
bother me.
now.
Yeah, so I mean, World of Warcraft, that is the case for World of Warcraft. It can't change the text that you're reading to put your name in there. It always refers to you as hero. I'm just used to it. I've been seeing it for over 10 years now, so it doesn't bother me. It'd be cool to see my character's name there instead. Definitely.
It is there, you fucking idiots.
This person must not have played World of Warcraft.
What the fuck are you talking about? Of course your name is there. Yeah, I've
They
played
literally just replace your name with whatever you typed in. It's actually pretty easy to do that.
Easy. It's when they talk, that's a different thing. Jesus Christ, shows how full of shit they are. Jesus.
That would be really cool, but it doesn't bother me that that's not a thing all the time.
Mm-hmm. You're accepting of that
Right.
fact. So in the recent case of Monster Hunter that just came out, the problem seems to stem from the fact that the rendering of the character in the creation screen was a much higher quality than that was implemented in the game. Do you think players would be as upset if the character still looked as bad as in the creation screen? I mean, we see this a lot in games. Dave, what do you think? Why is there such a disparity between how the character looks when you're actually creating it and then how it actually looks once you load into the game?
Oh, I can't think of any possible reason. That might not be that they need to have a different quality so that the fucking game runs well.
You don't
That
say.
can't possibly be the reason. It must be because they want to fuck you over in some way.
Yeah.
Glad you popped back in. Yeah, I totally agree.
One thing that mobile games do quite a bit of is they don't even have like. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing that mobile games do quite a bit of is for the character that you're role playing as, they don't have like a look or even lines sometimes.
Yeah.
To get around that issue. Like when you're looking at it from a cost perspective, you have to be reasonable when it comes down to these things. And yeah, it would be nice if everybody can get their character to be recognized in the game by all the NPCs by voice text. It's gonna happen.
Yeah. Anything you want to add, Sex?
Yeah, we're not talking about Star Trek holograms or holodecks and shit, are we? So you're gonna have to wait for technology to catch up to your fantasies, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's what actually the guy said, because the problem right now, he would love to have an AI text to speech to fix the problem instead of voice acting, but there isn't a solution to that, so it's kind of limited. So yeah, let's continue.
If the only thing that's going on the screen is I'm spinning this character around and maybe having it play a couple of sample animations and everything, all the attention of the processor, the video card and everything is being focused on animating and lighting that character. Oh, hang on, now I have to put it in a world with all sorts of incredible explosions and effects and all this background stuff and dynamic lighting, and here's this big huge creature dragony thing that's trying to gnaw my head off, and wow, we just do not have the budget to render in that fidelity. We're gonna have to cut down the number of polys that we're rendering. The lighting isn't going to be as cool because we're having to do it. It's entirely a technical, I'm assuming, at that point, because I've run into this in games I've worked on, and I'm well familiar with it in the industry. We only have so much to work with, and so some things are going to get cut. Now, it is unfortunate that there is this huge dichotomy between what people were expecting after, oh man, this is gorgeous, what I've just done, and put it in game, and you go, whoa, what happened to the nice character I made? Yeah, if you're going to run into that and it's a regular problem, then downsize it in the actual, oh my God, that is different. Sorry, I'm just looking at that screenshot.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
Wow,
not
that's
cool.
like cringeworthy.
I want that hair. I really, which I don't have a lot. So, but yeah, that then if it's false advertising at that point, unless people are just really, really enjoying, spending all their time in the character creator. At which point, why did you buy the game? Just buy the character creator, right? So yeah, but it is technical limitations, and it's unfortunate that the design decision was made to have such a huge difference between the two. If you're not going to put it in the game, don't put it in the character creator.
So, Momo, what's been the best character creator that you have experienced, or the worst?
Crap! That's
If it's not Black Desert Online, I'm gonna be pissed.
If it's not,
Black Desert Online, I'm gonna be pissed. Like, there's no argument that it has the best character creator, except for maybe Blade and Soul compares, but when it comes down to it, like, objectively, you really can't get much better than that.
I mean, I like to create my own character, but when push comes to shove, I don't really care that much. I'm more interested in the actual game, if it's good or not, to be honest.
I like creating nice, beautiful looking characters, but I mean, I can do that all the time. It's more about like how the game plays most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. Anything, Chad, does X?
Yeah, this comes from I don't really care about like, I get to create my own character. It's like that stuff is like a nice thing to have. The legitimate point is really has this been sold as like, this is exactly what it's going to be like, but it isn't. That's just a matter of how it's been advertised, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's not something that bothers me that much.
Yeah, let's continue.
It's because I want to know. I want to hear from all of you.
That's a good one. I mean, like, are we talking about like overall, like
maybe most
like,
options?
I'm gonna have to go with Sims because I think like Sims would be would it be most No, wait. I liked Fallout. Fallout was pretty cool. I think I liked Fallout 4's character customization the most, actually, because I feel like that was
did we lose Momo? What do you got? What's the best or the worst?
Because you could literally change your bust size with the scaler. You could change your waist, your hips, like different skin tones, different eye shapes. Like, there were so many options. And that was probably like legit the best character creator I've seen so far in all the games I've played.
And that was a long time ago, too. I remember when City of Heroes came out. So, all right, Dave, your best or your worst character creator that you've seen?
I'm gonna be a little controversial here and say Spore.
Okay. That was very customizable.
But you can make absolutely anything. I saw something that came across my Twitter feed the other day, is that they're reaching some sort of absolutely ridiculous number of creations that have been uploaded to the creator thing. Now, what percentage of those are simply bobbing penises, we don't know, because that was the favorite thing to make. Because you can make it in like 7 minutes, right? But the thing it does kind of come back to what we were just talking about with Monster Hunter, though, is people thought that the character creator was spectacular, and it turns out that it had almost no effect on the gameplay whatsoever. It wasn't that it looked different. It's like, why did I go to all of this trouble? Because the game is essentially the same. And it was kind of a letdown for a lot of people at that point. You could do all sorts of stuff, and it didn't matter in the end.
But it matters when I can see my character and I have to look at them for 40 hours.
Admittedly, yeah, that's great. No,
Well, I think that's basically the end of that thing, because they're going to close down. So, I mean, the entire thing is basically, when we've gone through it all, is that they contradict themselves, and I see this with SJWs all the time, to be honest. I don't know about you guys, but these SJWs are basically, they're more angry at themselves and don't want to change and project that anger onto towards everyone else instead of changing themselves, and therefore everyone else has to change instead of themselves, and therefore games and even cosplayers have to cater to them, uh, because they want to see themselves somehow represented in games or cosplay or whatever. And when the rules change, they don't like it. I don't know. What do you guys think? Rust?
Wait one second. Can you say that again? I was reading something.
Oh yeah, I know it's just basically projection on their part from the people who we just watch. It's basically just 1 hour of them contradicting themselves, and they're just projecting their insecurities on everyone else, and they have to cater to them because they're so insecure and they get angry.
I mean, there's quite a bit of that, but there's also a bit of it's like they have all these wishes and hopes for video games that I think a lot of video game fans have. And it's the difference between us and them is that we realize that they are exactly that. Games are limited, there are technical limitations. When it comes down to rendering, there's only so much you're going to be able to render with current technology. And most gamers are okay with that. They don't seem to be okay with that because they have this idealized version of what games should be, but they're not accepting the fact that we just aren't there yet.
Yeah, pretty much. What do you think, Dosax?
I mostly don't care about most of that shit. It's like it's not appropriate for every genre, and I literally couldn't care if I'm not going to become a bodybuilder, so I'm not likely to look like Duke Nukem anytime soon. That doesn't really bother me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just really doesn't.
I think one game that kind of showed like this story in a good light that I don't think that they mentioned was Final Fantasy 15. One of
What
the
about
main
it?
one of the main characters promo when he was a kid, he was a fat kid that got bullied a lot. And he pretty much worked out for years in order so he can be friends with Noctis. And eventually he became friends with them, and now they were like brothers. And it's like people keep on talking about all these stories that don't have overweight people, and it's like, yeah, they do have those stories out there. You're just not looking for them, or you're only playing the shit that you think that all the fucking teenage bros are playing, like Fallout 4. And it's like there are way better character creators that have come out since then. And I'm not trying to narc on Fallout 4 because it was pretty good. But I mean, if you are actually playing a lot of games, if you're a gamer, you're going to know about the more obscure character creators that are better and give you exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree.
And it's like
I,
a game like BDO isn't really obscure and it's only $10. You could have played it at least once within the past 2 to 3 years it's been out.
Yeah, I also expected they actually had better arguments in this because I hadn't seen this before we started. I actually wanted to finish it last time, but time constraints made it so we finished it this time. But yeah, next time we're gonna try to tackle something different. But yeah, well, all in all, do you have anything like really to say about the four people in that video?
Eh,
I think they just need to get over it. I mean, it's like you're gonna complain about body types and stereotypes. Stereotypes exist for a reason. You either accept them or you don't. But sitting around complaining that they exist isn't gonna solve anything, and it isn't gonna make people like you. It's not their problem. It's your problem. You're the only person with the issue here.
Yeah, pretty much. I agree. So, I think this is a good place to close down. Anything you want to say before we stop the podcast?
No, I think I've said everything I need to say. It's like just don't waste your time getting agitated if you're trying to enjoy yourself. It just seems counterproductive to me.
That's actually really good advice. Yeah. I think on that note, we're gonna end. So thank you guys for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye.